Ladies and gentlemen, the lighting of the lamp, a symbolic gesture of lighting up the dark recesses of the mind and our thought processes as part of the ceremonial inauguration of the 22nd National Conference on E-Governance held in the picturesque city of Shillong. This is the first time that it has been held in the Northeast, and Meghalaya is privileged to hold this prestigious event. Respected dignitaries, special invitees, officials, guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst today functionaries from administration, industries and information technology who are directly responsible for public citizenry services, connectivity and management to deliberate and conclusively arrive at an effective mechanism to maximize high-quality services to the citizen of this country. This has been envisioned by the think tank and policy influencers of this country to converge intellectually in a common platform under the banner of National Conference on E-Governance. With this backdrop, we welcome you all to the 22nd National Conference on E-Governance, held for the first time in the Northeast with Meghalaya, the abode of clouds, as a host state. The capital city aptly forming a canopy of welcome respite from the heat and rain, a divinely endowed climate treat adjusted to celebrate all of you delegates, guests, and participants. We are so privileged to therefore honor and acknowledge the valued presence of our dignitaries and guests by presenting them with bouquets and souvenirs. Phil?
दुनिया भर में आधुनिक तकनीकी क्रांति लोगों के जीवन को सुगम और बेहतर बनाने में कारगर सिद्ध हुई है। भारत में देश की जनता की आशाओं और सपनों को पंख देने के उद्देश्य से
Our chief guest for today being honored with a traditional shawl. Dr. Jitendra Singh, the Honorable Minister of State. Sir Hamletson Darling, the Honorable Minister of Information Technology and Communications. The traditional shawl being gifted to Dr. K.V. Ipen. That is Sir Ajay Prakash Sahani. And for the co-host of the organizing committee, Shri V. Srinivas. Thank you. That is our very own Chief Secretary, Sir P.S. Thank you, receiving the traditional shawl. Thank you. the chairman responsible for this function today, Ma'am Rebecca Sushang. An exceptional senior government official who tirelessly worked to make this mega meet possible in this pristine hill state. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the chairman of the organizing committee, Ma'am Rebecca Sushang. In the study by Abraham Maslow, the Jewish psychologist who stated the whole genre of motivational psychology, he described the word actualization. Here, a person becomes 100% actualized in a career because 100% of his or her divine given potential is used up in a role that releases one to a transcendent cause, for they view their existence not just for themselves, but theirs is a design to meet a need. This description fits in all its entirety Ma'am Rebecca Sushang, an IS officer of the 1989 batch belonging to the Assam Meghalaya cadre. At present, she holds the post of the Additional Chief Secretary, Personnel and Administrative Reforms Department, Government of Meghalaya. My privilege to welcome Ma'am Rebecca Sushang to address the gathering. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Camelia. I've never been so nicely introduced. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure in warmly welcoming our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Conrad K. Sangma, to the 22nd National Conference on E-Governance. Our Honorable Chief Minister is probably one of the most tech-driven leaders in the country. Under his leadership, the state has initiated cutting-edge digital innovations like data-driven governance. I would also like to welcome Dr. Jitendra Singh, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension. Thank you, sir, for your presence here in spite of your very, very busy schedule. I also would like to welcome Shri Hamletson Dolling, the Honorable Minister, Information Technology. Thank you, sir, for being with us and gracing this occasion. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Shri Ajay Prakash Sani, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Shri K.V. Epan, Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, Shri P.S. Thankev, our Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya. I also welcome all senior officials, panelists, delegates from states and union territories, our knowledge partner, NASCOM, industry partners to the conference, which is hosted for the first time in the Northeast here in Shillong with the theme Digital India Success to Excellence. This conference provides a platform for all the states and union territories to showcase their e-governance initiatives, exchange experiences and best practices in e-governance. For our industry partners, this is also an opportunity for them to showcase their digital products and services. And for the Northeast as a whole, this conference will be the much needed impetus to further our e-governance efforts and try and catch up with the rest of the country. Discussions will be held in 6 sub-themes in the plenary session and 3 breakout sessions on end-to-end digital services. It is also a happy reunion of the officers of the 1984 vintage of the IAS, 3 of whom are sitting here. Not by implicit design, but by sheer happy coincidence. So we are delighted to have you in Shillong. I also have my batchmate here. I mean, this is a rare occasion since it's the national conference and we get to meet batchmates. 85 batch, I think, also have some of the batchmates here. So welcome everyone to this conference. Today, as the states and the union territories, the industry partners, the innovators converge and interact with each other. We hope to discuss the dream of an electronic digital India, not forgetting the needs and aspirations of the common man. This national conference is not about us. It is about them who yearn for change, as much as we are the agents of that change. With these few words, I again welcome all of you to Shillong and this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm words of welcome.
to apprise the honorable dignitaries and invitees on the impact of e-governance initiatives in the country, a short film highlighting the various innovative projects in different parts of the country which have been awarded with National E-Governance Awards in February this year will now be screened. Ladies and gentlemen, a short film on e-governance.
दुनिया भर में आधुनिक तकनीकी क्रांति लोगों के जीवन को सुगम और बेहतर बनाने में कारगर सिद्ध हुई है। भारत में देश की जनता की आशाओं और सपनों को पंख देने के उद्देश्य से केंद्र और राज्य सरकारों ने बहुत से ऐसे डिजिटल और ई गवर्नेंस के कदम उठाए हैं जिनसे न सिर्फ लोगों का जीवन बेहतर हुआ है बल्कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग देश में बह रही डिजिटल और ई गवर्नेंस की धारा का लाभ उठा रहे हैं।
मेरे हिसाब से ई गवर्नेंस, इजी गवर्नेंस, इफेक्टिव गवर्नेंस, इकोनॉमिकल गवर्नेंस, एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली गवर्नेंस,
प्रशासनिक सुधार एवं लोक शिकायत विभाग द्वारा हर वर्ष की तरह इस वर्ष भी देश भर से 14 पहलों को पुरस्कृत करने हेतु चुना गया है। छत्तीसगढ़ में एक वेब बेस्ड सुविधा युक्त खनिज ऑनलाइन लागू होने से न सिर्फ कामकाज में सरलता आई है बल्कि अब ट्रांजिट पास और परमिट सब होते हैं ऑनलाइन जारी। पेमेंट्स का भुगतान डिजिटल हुआ और भ्रष्टाचार पर रोक लगी। खनिज ढोने से लेकर उसके गंतव्य तक पहुंचने का लेखा जोखा कार्यालय में बैठकर किया जा सकता है। बढ़ती यात्री टिकटों की मांग की आपूर्ति के लिए IRCTC ऐप को बेहतर किया गया है। अब रेल कनेक्ट ऐप पर यात्री तत्काल टिकट, महिला कोटा, प्रीमियम तत्काल कोटा जैसी सुविधाओं का उपयोग सरलता से कर सकते हैं। इससे डिजिटल भुगतान आसान हुआ है। उत्तर प्रदेश में राजस्व जमीनों के कंप्यूटरीकरण के बाद हर प्लॉट को एक 16 डिजिट यूनिक आइडेंटिटी नंबर दिए जाने से किसी भी प्लॉट के बारे में कोई भी किसी भी तरह की जानकारी ले सकता है। जैसे किसी प्लॉट का मालिक कौन है, प्लॉट किसी मुकदमेबाजी में या फिर कहीं गिरवी तो नहीं है। इस डिजिटल सिस्टम ने प्रबंधन सरल और पारदर्शी बना दिया है। बहुत सी जानकारियां अब SMS द्वारा हासिल की जा सकती हैं। ऐसी बहुत सारी डिजिटल पहलों ने जैसे भू नक्शा, खसरा, म्यूटेशन के लिए ऑनलाइन आवेदन, एंटी भू माफिया पोर्टल और कोर्ट केस कंप्यूटराइज्ड मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम RCCMS के प्रबंधन को सरल, सुगम और पारदर्शी बना दिया है। RCCMS के तहत वाद विवाद संबंधी हर तरह की जानकारी मोबाइल पर SMS द्वारा उपलब्ध होने से उपभोक्ताओं का सशक्तिकरण हुआ है। युवाओं की आशाओं और सपनों को साकार कर रहा है राजस्थान सरकार का सिंगल विंडो प्लेटफॉर्म iStart। ये प्लेटफॉर्म हर तरह की जानकारी प्रदान करता है। प्लग एंड प्ले आधारिक संरचना, संसाधनों का उपयोग करने के लिए APIS विशेषज्ञ मार्गदर्शन द्वारा ये लाभार्थियों को राज्य की परियोजनाओं पर काम करने का अवसर भी प्रदान करता है। iStart के अंतर्गत युवा व्यापारी के प्रोजेक्ट्स में मदद के लिए 500 करोड़ के टेक्नो फंड का विशेष प्रबंध किया गया है। iStart राजस्थान एक परेशानी रहित और पेपरलेस यानी कागज रहित सिस्टम बनाने में अग्रसर है। बिलों का भुगतान करना हो, भरनी हो इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न, गैस सिलेंडर हो या हो आधार से जुड़ी कोई जानकारी, अब देश के नागरिक 13 भाषाओं में उपलब्ध राजधानी दिल्ली के उमंग मोबाइल ऐप को डाउनलोड कर केंद्र और राज्य सरकारों की अनेकों सुविधाओं का लाभ कभी भी कहीं से भी उठा सकते हैं। अभी उमंग ऐप पर कुल 325 सेवाएं उपलब्ध हैं और 2020 आते आते इस उमंग ऐप पर 1200 सर्विसेज उपलब्ध हो जाएंगी। महाराष्ट्र में रियल एस्टेट से संबंधित लगातार बढ़ती दिक्कतों से निपटने का नया हथियार बना रियल एस्टेट रेगुलेशन एवं डेवलपमेंट एक्ट 2016। अब एक सिंगल प्लेटफॉर्म यानी महारेरा से एक क्लिक से कोई भी राज्य में बन रही इमारतों से जुड़ी किसी भी तरह की जानकारी आसानी से हासिल कर सकता है। महारेरा के अंतर्गत पूरी 16 G2C और G2B सर्विसेज का भुगतान 100% डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म से ही होता है। पारदर्शिता बढ़ाने और भ्रष्टाचार रोकने में महाराष्ट्र की ये पहल ये भी सुनिश्चित कर रही है कि राज्य में चल रही 19,000 से ज्यादा परियोजनाएं समय पर पूरी हो। छात्रों के भविष्य की बुनियाद को मजबूती दे रहा है वन स्टॉप देशव्यापी नेशनल स्कॉलरशिप डिजिटल पोर्टल। इस पोर्टल के तहत अब छात्र छात्रवृत्ति के लिए आवेदन, उसकी रसीद प्राप्ति, प्रोसेसिंग, वित्तीय और विभिन्न स्कॉलरशिप संबंधित सुविधाएं अपने मोबाइल या कंप्यूटर पर कभी भी कहीं भी हासिल कर सकते हैं और स्कॉलरशिप की रकम डिजिटल ट्रांसफर द्वारा सीधे लाभार्थी के बैंक अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर की जाती है। पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों के दुर्गम इलाकों में जन जन तक स्वास्थ्य सुविधाओं को पहुंचाने की दिक्कत को आसान किया हेलो डॉक्टर यानी टेलीकॉल 555 ने। यहां के नागरिक अपने साधारण फोन या फिर वीडियो कॉल के जरिए दूर दराज इलाकों में बैठे डॉक्टर से अपनी बीमारी के इलाज के बारे में मुफ्त परामर्श कर सकते हैं। इस तकनीकी पहल से विभाग को मरीजों की सेहत का विवरण का विश्लेषण करने और जानकारी हासिल करने में खासी मदद मिली है। आंध्र प्रदेश के कोकुलम जिले में परमाणु संयंत्र का विरोध कर रहे लोगों के घरों, पेड़ों की सही गिनती और विस्थापित होने पर उनके लिए सतत विकास के लिए संतोषजनक पैकेज का सही आंकलन हुआ GIS डेटा से, जो संभव हुआ पूरे क्षेत्र की ड्रोन मैपिंग से। और पैकेजेस का वितरण तेजी और पारदर्शी तरीके से हो, इसलिए पुनर्वास ऐप बनाया गया। लाभार्थियों से जुड़ी हर मुमकिन जानकारी लिए इस पुनर्वास ऐप के जरिए बिना किसी गलती के पेमेंट्स का भुगतान डिजिटली संभव हुआ। चेन्नई में पवन ऊर्जा चंद क्षणों में ही कुछ हजार मेगावाट कम हो सकती है या बढ़ सकती है। इस समस्या का समाधान हो पाया NIWE द्वारा विकसित नई भविष्य प्रणाली विंड पावर फोरकास्टिंग सर्विसेज से, जिसके जरिए हर 15 मिनट में नई भविष्यवाणी 10 दिन पहले मिल जाती है। विंड टरबाइन से बिजली को शेड्यूल करने और उसे आगे भेजने में इससे मदद तो मिलती ही है, साथ ही साथ फोरकास्टिंग सस्ती और प्रभावी भी हुई है। उत्तर प्रदेश के आदिवासी इलाकों में टीबी पर नियंत्रण करने के लिए आधुनिक तकनीक से 4000 मरीजों के रियल टाइम डेटा को एकत्र किया गया। मोबाइल टीबी डायग्नोस्टिक वैन के जरिए लोगों को जागरूक करने और पेशेवर चिकित्सकों को संवेदनशील बनाने में मदद मिली। मरीजों का इलाज हो पाया और मरीजों द्वारा अनावश्यक खर्चों में पूरी तरह गिरावट आ गई। गुजरात में chemicals4construction.com इकलौता ऐसा ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म है जहां एक क्लिक पर कोई भी किसी भी सदस्य से संपर्क कर सकता है। अलग अलग कंपनियों के कंस्ट्रक्शन केमिकल्स और वाटरप्रूफिंग उत्पादों की खरीद के साथ साथ कोई भी अपनी जरूरत की सूची मुफ्त में अपलोड कर सकता है। इस डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म के आने से खरीद फरोख्त के लिए बिचौलियों के कारण होने वाली धोखाधड़ी पर रोक लगी। MDDA ERP वेब पोर्टल। इस वेब पोर्टल में हर फाइल की हरे, पीले और लाल रंग से कोडिंग की जाती है। किसी भी ऑफिसर की टेबल पर अगर कोई भी फाइल अपनी निर्धारित समय सीमा से देर तक रुकती है तो वो सीधे वाइस चेयरमैन के डैशबोर्ड पर दिखाई दे जाता है। उपभोक्ता अपने काम की प्रगति की जानकारी पा सकते हैं और ऑनलाइन लेन देन करने के साथ अपने मोबाइल पर सभी जानकारी पा सकते हैं। हरियाणा में भिवानी नगर पालिका की 60,000 संपत्तियों के संपत्ति कर का सही आंकलन न होने से राजस्व को भारी नुकसान हो रहा था। यह काम आसान किया हरियाणा स्पेस एप्लीकेशन सेंटर द्वारा विकसित नए जीआईएस प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स मैनेजमेंट ने यूएवी यानी अनमैन्ड एरियल व्हीकल और ड्रोन भू सक्षम एप्लीकेशन से नगर पालिका की सारी संपत्तियों के आयामों के सही माप और संपत्ति कर की सही जानकारी होने से संपत्ति कर वसूली में सराहनीय वृद्धि हुई। कुछ कोशिशों के बाद ये तकनीक देश भर में इस्तेमाल की जा सकती है। ऐसी और बहुत सी ई गवर्नेंस और डिजिटल पहलों के कारण भारत में ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग ई गवर्नेंस से जुड़कर विभिन्न सुविधाओं का लाभ उठा रहे हैं।
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause for all the awardees as seen in the short film? We are privileged to have in our midst a senior officer of the Indian Administrative Service with over 35 years' experience in public service. Closer home, he has served in the state of Assam as Additional Chief Secretary in charge of Environment and Forest, Labour and Employment, and Planning and Development Departments. And he played a major role as Chief Coordinator overseeing the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. At present, he is the Secretary to the Government of India in the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. And together with the Honorable Minister of State, Government of India, he has been instrumental in bringing the National Conference on E-Governance to the picturesque capital city of Shillong. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to request Shri K.V. Epen to kindly address the gathering.
Shri Conrad Konkal Sangma, Honorable Chief Minister, Meghalaya, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Honorable Minister of State, Personal, Public Grievances and Pension, and the Ministry of Donor, Government of India, Shri Hamletson Doling, Minister of IT, Government of Meghalaya, Shri Ajay Prakash Sani, Secretary Mighty, Shri P.S. Thankyu, Chief Secretary of Meghalaya, Ms. R.V. Suchiang, Additional Chief Secretary, Shri V. Srinivas, Additional Secretary, eminent personalities from industry, distinguished panelists in the plenary session, awardees of the National E-Governance Awards, colleagues from the Government of India and the states, and other distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to welcome each and every one of you to the 22nd National Conference on E-Governance, NCEG, at Shillong, which the Government of Meghalaya has graciously consented to co-host along with the Government of India. Every year since 1997, the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, DARPG, of the Government of India, and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY, have together organized the national conferences on e-governance in partnership with the respective state government. This is the first time, however, that we are holding the NCEG in the Northeast region, and that too in Shillong. This is a matter of particular happiness for me, for I am an IS officer of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, and I had worked in the Meghalaya Secretariat between 1997 and 2000 as Commissioner and Secretary Health and Family Welfare and also other departments. Late Dr. Don Cooper Roy was my minister at that time, and I recall his unfailing politeness and accessibility. I am aware of the constraints and difficulties faced by the Government of Meghalaya in organizing such a big conference, and I thank my colleagues in the state, one and all, who have worked tirelessly to arrange this. As they say, well begun is half done, and the attendance today promises that this will be a conference to remember. Distinguished guests, the NCEG provides a platform to policymakers, practitioners, and industry leaders to interact, present their views, analyze, and to recommend various solutions and to provide actionable strategies for good governance. The discussions and outcomes from this forum have in the past significantly helped in improving the standard and efficiency of citizen-centric services in the country. As you're aware, the theme of this conference is Digital India, Success to Excellence. This essentially means that though our journey towards digitization has achieved many successes, we still have to mainstream the process and make it part of the national development strategy. We have to be committed to transform India into a knowledge-based society by ensuring digital access, digital inclusion, and digital empowerment of all its citizens, and to reduce the digital divide. The Government of India is determined to achieve the digital dividend for each and every citizen through literacy and accessibility for all. Digital technologies offer the opportunity to reorganize and rethink the way services are delivered. The Government of India recognizes the power and impact of disruptive digital technologies in the public sector, and hence is very keen to build a sustainable digital ecosystem for the future. The very objective of bringing in a digital revolution and transformation in the government sector is to, among others, increase the efficiency and transparency, improve and align complex processes, smart government along with smart cities, attract new investors, bridge the digital divide, transform government transaction service in a data-driven environment, enhance citizen satisfaction and trust, meet the needs of rapidly changing demographics, and balance costs while optimizing efficiency. Distinguished delegates, this is our focus area. At the central government, the Honorable Prime Minister has committed to create a new India in partnership with all the states and other stakeholders by Sankalp Se Siddhi. India is at the cusp of a technological revolution and is taking strides in adopting and implementing new technologies. The thrust on digital transactions, easing business processes, and enabling transparency by the government has opened new doors for innovation and the deployment of emerging technologies such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, IoT, automation, fintech, 3D printing, and so on. While the industry would advise us on what is happening and what we can implement today and in the near future, all of us have to work together to see how these technologies can actually help us in enhancing the user experience instead of just assisting service providers and the government in their monitoring mechanism. The large-scale initiatives of the government, such as Make in India, Digital India, and Skill India, have begun to leverage these emerging technologies to create efficiency and increase reach across the population at lower cost. With emerging technologies becoming implementable, India offers an opportunity to implement at a scale that can be matched only by very few countries in the world. As India goes digital, data sets about various facets of Indian consumers and businesses are becoming available to fuel improved implementation. Our ecosystem of startups already exists, and they are willing to plunge headfirst into the race to apply these technologies and data sets to solve unique Indian problems, including those relating to crucial sectors such as agriculture, urban transport, energy management, financial inclusion, small format retail, just to name a few. The government firmly believes that in a global economy, the ability to remain competitive requires digital and information excellence. Digital transformation, therefore, ranks high on the agenda of this government, and we foresee these transformations eventually happening at all levels, and that too at a scale never seen before in the history of our country. The government is committed to invest significantly to create the right environment, to foster innovation, attract talent, and reskill our workforce to yield the demographic dividend. To achieve excellence in the digital arena, it is also important to have security of data apart from digital literacy and an enabling environment or a capacity to handle and transmit digital data. Accordingly, all the sessions in this conference have been planned around these themes. We just had in the morning the India Enterprise Architecture in EA, digital infrastructure, one nation, one platform, emerging technology for practitioners, a session on secretariat reforms, and also a session on the National E-Services Delivery Assessment. There will be breakout sessions on inclusion and capacity building and a anticipated session where the states will share the digital initiatives taken by them in digital services. One of the topics for discussion in this conference, which will have great transaction in my view, is on secretariat reforms. The use of e-office is fundamental in driving this reform. Hence, we are arranging a full panel discussion on this topic, and many states are making efforts to channelize resources and come out with innovative solutions to routine services hitherto delivered manually. States like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Bihar, Telangana, Gujarat, and Meghalaya will be sharing their success stories. This will give ideas and opportunities to other states to rethink ways in which they will be able to provide digital services to the people. We will also be discussing ways to synergize the roles of the national and state governments. This year, the exhibition has also drawn a large number of participants, and we thank the Honorable Chief Minister for inaugurating the exhibition just now. We have also for the first time put up a Hall of Fame where we have showcased the e-governance initiatives which have been sustained and developed over time, and also those which have a potential for paradigm shift in the way citizens access market services. As you can see in the exhibition, there are initiatives on citizen-centric delivery like Umang and the IRCTC Rail Connect app. We have also on display the CP grams and the e-office from the DARPG. Various states have exhibits on service delivery, and there are also exhibits from startups. I compliment the government of Meghalaya for making excellent arrangements for the exhibition. I once again express my thanks to the Honorable Chief Minister, Minister IT, and my dear friend, the Chief Secretary of Meghalaya, Sri P.S. Thank you, for their able leadership and cooperation in hosting this national conference in Meghalaya. I thank Mrs. R.V. Suchiang, Additional Chief Secretary, and her entire team for their tireless and outstanding efforts in organizing and tying up the minutest details. I express my gratitude to our Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh, who has always provided inspiring leadership in all our endeavors. I look forward to a very fruitful and intellectual, enriching 2 days at the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insight on citizen services delivery and the efforts of the Government of India towards increasing efficiency and transparency in services delivery.
This momentous occasion is possible because enlightened individuals have capitalized on the nuances of emerging technology and digital accessibility by leveraging and simplifying such for the upgrade and ease of the majority. I want to introduce you to one such personality, an IS officer, Sir Ajay Prakash Sahni. He belongs to the Andhra Pradesh Cadre 1984 batch and has catalyzed the establishment of the International Institute of the Information Technology in Hyderabad and its emergence as one of the premier institutions in computer science education and research in India. He is also instrumental in executing policies relating to e-governance and whose efforts also contributed to putting India on the digital map. He is presently holding the post of Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. My privilege to call upon you, sir, Ajay Prakash Sahni, to address this gathering, sir.
Honorable Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Shri Conrad Sangma ji, Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge of Donor of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions in Government of India, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Minister of Information Technology and Communications in Meghalaya, Shri Doling, my dear colleagues and batchmates, Shri K.V. Ipan, Shri P.S. Thank you, and others on the dais, senior officers from Government of India, from state governments, especially from Government of Meghalaya, stalwarts from the industry, media, who are also here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be here in Shillong in the first edition of National Conference on E-Governance, which is being held in a northeastern state. I have been in the area of e-governance and IT for a long time. I was closely associated with the very first conference which was held in Hyderabad in 1997. And I have remained in touch with e-governance all through, and IT also in general. It's a wonderful venue and comes as a great surprise that in the hill state, in this city of Shillong, there is this kind of a conference set up which can actually host a huge conference of this magnitude. I think this should be used for conference after conference. It should be a continuous series of conferences that we can hold. It'll turn out to be one of the finest locations for conferences of all kinds. So my thanks to the government of Maharashtra, to ARNPG, and to all the organizers, and especially to the Honorable Chief Minister and the leadership here for having organized it in such a beautiful place. So we have moved in the journey of Digital India. We started with a national e-governance plan. We implemented a large number of projects. And then in 2014 and formally in 2015, we moved on to the concept of Digital India, which is an all-encompassing concept which basically tries to leverage all the digital technologies for the benefit of the common man in India. And in this journey, I think it's time now to move forward with a second edition of Digital India, which can lead us to a complete digital economy. The difference is that earlier we were using IT in improving services of a particular department of a government to the citizens. We have implemented a large number of projects of that kind. Now that there is convergence across technologies on one hand, on the other hand, the technologies are getting applied deeply into each and every sector. It's time to move forward with a different approach, with a new energy into a Digital India too. In this, I would like to mention that different elements of the digital economy involve tremendous strengths that we have been able to build over the past few decades. First of all, India is a global IT services hub. I think it's time to move not only towards having excellence in providing IT services, but also emerging as a software product nation. Many of our initiatives in the past few years are actually emerging as nationwide implementations, and they are ready to be taken global. And a large number of companies now, the new companies in IT, are actually moving forward with products rather than just IT services. This is one concept that I wanted to flag. Another strength that we have built in the recent, especially the recent 5 years, is a spurt in growth in electronics manufacturing, which serves as the bedrock for anything to do with IT. And it's time to expand it, it's time to move into exports of electronics. But most of all, and the subject matter of this particular conference, is the large number of e-governance projects that we have implemented, excellent examples of which we have seen in the stalls outside, we have seen in the film that was exhibited here. But it's a huge number of projects. It's time to converge, it's time to consolidate, it's time to universalize. It is not sufficient that excellent services in municipal services get provided in a few municipal corporations or municipalities across the country. It is necessary that every municipality must provide high quality services. We must consolidate, we must converge, we must universalize something that is good. In moving towards that, the concept of platforms comes into being, the public digital platforms. We have experience, I'll actually touch on this further, but we have experience in this with building a platform like Aadhaar, a platform like the Unified Payments Interface for financial services. No, please go back. GSTN as a huge nationwide platform, GEM as a procurement platform which is creating tremendous opportunities. In creating platforms, we move away from government as the sole service provider or as the primary service provider to creating platforms where Team India, not just government, but government across departments, government across center, state and local government, as well as entities which are outside the government, can pool their resources. We can use even peer-to-peer contributions to be able to move forward with the concept of platforms. Platforms actually tend to unleash huge amount of new energy in the economy of the country. So in this, many more digital platforms now need to be architected and need to be operationalized. Apart from this, we have huge abundance of technology talent, but it's time with the technologies like big data analytics, machine learning, deep learning and AI, IoT, blockchain, AR and VR, 3D printing and manufacturing, and further advances in cloud computing, social media, etc., which are coming in. It's time for us to move into the next generation of skills. It's time, it is not going to be sufficient to keep pegging our hopes on IT and ITES, especially the outsourced services, because sooner or later machines will actually start doing many things which we are doing today with human resource. It's time to move up the value chain. It's time to take up future skills and create a huge workforce which is capable of providing solutions and services around the future technologies. In this, future skills is a huge area that I would like to flag. A vibrant startup ecosystem that we have developed is something that can be used to create tremendous solutions for us within the country. We have so many problems to solve. In any area, I think we have any number of issues that still are unresolved. Any unsolved problem is a tremendous opportunity for a startup, for an industry. And as we go to build our own solutions to solve our own problems, many of these will turn out to be world-class solutions which can actually not just be used within the country but also be internationalized. The solutions for the next billion people, the solution for the remaining billions of people across the world. And for doing all that, we have to strengthen our data centers, we have to strengthen our infrastructure, our networks. All of that needs to be done. So next. I'll move now to the area of digital services. Digital services is what this conference focuses on. While there are thousands of projects, I would say more than 200 projects that we have implemented are major projects having an impact almost in large segments of the country or across the country. At more than 3,700 services which are now operational in e-governance. Every day, e-tal is a count of the number of electronic digital transactions that happen through our various systems, whether it is delivery of passports, whether it is filing of income tax returns, whether it is payment of utility bills using many of the systems that we have created. 9.1 crore is the number of transactions that happen on a daily basis in the country. This gets captured in e-tal. And there are large number of on-demand services. This is a word cloud which actually shows a plethora of projects that we have implemented. And while that is something to celebrate, it's also something to ponder over. And in my next slide, I will actually come to that. We still need to bridge the digital divide. We still need to universalize coverage. We still need to enhance experience of the user. We still need to accomplish an end-to-end workflow. How do we go around doing that? Architecture, architected solution. It was very much necessary for us to follow the paths that we have followed, which was allow 1,000 flowers to bloom. Because there was no other way in a country of this size and diversity, there was no other way to move forward in the first generation of implementation of IT and e-governance. But now, it's time to go back to an architected approach so that the whole of government first gets envisioned and then we start filling in blocks one by one. It's as if a jigsaw puzzle first has to be designed, and then when we fit in the elements, they will all fit in together to give us the final solution. The whole of government approach, open APIs as catalysts, a single sign-on. Right now, if a farmer receives services for soil health card, there is a separate sign-on. If they require seeds, there is a separate agency and a separate system to approach. Fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation, land records, crop loans, all of them are provided today electronically, but they are provided through separate systems. As far as a farmer is concerned, it's approaching a large number of separate, disparate windows. Each one of them is delivering services. But what they are delivering is not enough for the farmer. Just as an illustration, we need to move into the era of digital platforms where it is not just the government that provides services, where it is a joint effort of center, state, local governments along with the rest of the ecosystem to improve the services. We need to create more nationwide platforms as we move forward. Just 2-3 more slides which actually bring this out in a little bit of detail. Next. I would like to point at the success of use of public digital platforms that we have had as a country. Aadhaar with 124 crore card holders or identity holders. There have been 3,150 crore authentications, online authentications. And in DBT alone, not to speak of the gains that are there in the financial inclusion by making it easy to bring new people on board into bank accounts, not counting what has happened in telecom, not counting the attendance system that we all use in Government of India, and large number of other such things. In DBT alone, the savings are of the order of 1.4 lakh crore. We would have spent probably less than 15 or 16,000 crores on this, but we have built an ecosystem. It is not just a database, it's an ecosystem, it's a digital platform. It's a digital platform which doesn't directly provide services. It makes it possible to provide next generation services, and the benefits, it's low investments and very, very high returns. Similar result is seen in GEM, where we have seen a tremendous growth in the number of suppliers, in the number of buyers, and it makes it easy, it brings tremendous savings. UPI I would like to call out. UPI, Unified Payments Interface, as a public digital platform, it has become the leading mode of payment within 3 years of its coming into existence, challenging established card networks like Visa, MasterCard, and many, many other instruments that used to be in place. And GSTN, next. One illustration of, next slide please. One illustration, just bringing out what is the solution. The problem is now understood. The possible solutions are understood. What is the way we move forward? For a farmer, there are a large number of projects. They are implemented not just by Ministry of Agriculture. They are implemented by departments of agriculture in state governments. They are implemented even by KVKs in the districts. also by the financial services department and the banking ecosystem, also by land records. All of them today provide services which are relevant to the farmers. But we fail to provide a unified service. We fail to provide one place where a farmer can go for everything that he or she needs. So, bringing these together, using the concept of India enterprise architecture, making use of open APIs, coming to a situation where there's a unified platform, there is a single sign-on for farmers, there are multiple service providers, all governments at all levels, peer-to-peer, as well as the industry, using the same platform, and giving a complete gamut of services which a farmer needs. So this is an illustration of what we need to move towards, and government moving from being a service provider to a service enabler. My final slide, next slide please. We need public digital platforms in skills, we need public digital platform in health, we need public digital platform in education. We need land as a consolidated public digital platform, knitting together all the departments that make use of or contribute to land records. We need a talent marketplace. We need a system which actually alleviates the credit needs of MSMEs, where there is a huge gap, and also in urban governance. These are some of the illustrative platforms which we must move towards, and this will not be easy to accomplish. So far, we have succeeded where we had greenfield situations. Where there are brownfield projects, knitting them together is going to be difficult. But we have the capability, we have the resolve, and we must move forward with tremendous care, with tremendous attention to detail to actually accomplish this for the country. I have some other things, but I will now not take up those. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I think it's time to move into a next generation of Digital India program, which sees all of us put our strengths, our capabilities into bringing the benefits of not only existing, but the new emerging digital technologies to each and everyone in the country. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your kind words of encouragement to the host state of Meghalaya and for the exhaustive presentation to harness digital technology and foster innovation in governance and economy of our great country, India.
If this is your first visit to Shillong and you are intrigued by its peculiarities, further swayed to its beauty as remarked by a previous addressee, then a must-read and a takeaway souvenir is a book you must have in your suitcase, Broken Arrow and Other Tales. The glory of Shillong we all hear talked about nostalgically, the beauty of summer nights and plurality of its inhabitants in peaceful coexistence, the horse racing sports and pastry crunch, all that has been exquisitely captured and penned by none other than our dignified and seasoned bureaucrat, Sir P.S. Thankeu, an IAS officer of the 1984 batch of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, and the author of this book, as well as North by Northeast, A Golfer's Delight, whose high-level leadership in the bureaucratic setup propelled this meager and memorable event in our state. It is my honor and a privilege to request you, Sir P.S. Thankeu, our Honorable Chief Secretary to the Government of Meghalaya, to address this gathering, sir.
Good morning, afternoon rather, Honorable Chief Minister Shri Conrad Sangma, Honorable Union Minister of State for Donor, Personnel, Dr. Jitendra Singh, our Honorable Minister for Urban Affairs, Hamlet Dolling. I'd like to greet my batchmate batchmates, Mr. K.V. Epen, who is more of a brother than a batchmate, Mr. Ajay Sani, who have been very close for the last 35 years. I'd like to greet Kong Rebecca Su Chung, who is perhaps one of the main, the persons responsible for the turnout of this conference, which I believe is touched almost 500. I'd like to also greet Mr. Muiwa, Secretary NEC, my colleague, Mr. Hector Marvin, Mr. Srinivas, all Government of India officials, IS officers, Government of Meghalaya, participants from the industry, members of the media, and also the staff and those workers who have worked tirelessly in making this function a success thus far. I would like to place on record that as Chief Secretary, our thanks to Dr. Jitendra Singh for rather insisting that we have this conference here for the first time in the Northeast, and also under the dynamic leadership of our Chief Minister, who was the person who was guiding and giving us all the necessary support, that we've been able to host this conference despite the natural constraint of not having an airport nearby. The logistics involved, auxiliary support when there's no airport is quite tremendous, and so I place on record my appreciation of the efforts of all the officers, the licensed officers, all the staff who have worked tirelessly to stage this conference. I will not dwell too much on the conference, but as Chief Secretary, I will just, as my Ajay has said, that he has given in detail, and also what are the objectives or the expected outcomes. We all know that eventually it's about citizen satisfaction, improving the quality of life. Those are the final outcomes which we need for this country. And also that we need to, how do we take this process forward? We already have, silos is a word which has been used constantly. We have hundreds of thousands of silos which are in existence, both in central and state government, and majority of them, in their own way, have been able to provide better services, have been able to bring about certain level of customer satisfaction. This has been a theme which has been, repeated even in the panel discussion which we had at 10 o'clock. I'd just like to place on record that, as now everybody knows, 1984, we joined service, and since 1988, we've been having this, friendly presence since, I remember 1988, in the shape of NIC, which has, it has done many wonderful things for the last 3 decades. For example, I remember when we used to, print a budget. That time, print a budget, it had to, go through the process of deleting, cut and paste. Even time computers, they were the ones who made those data entry formats. It has been able to help the state government to a great extent, and for that we have to thank the Government of India. Since then, they've been able, to have this hand-holding. And I hope from this conference, that this hand-holding will be more of a hugging. It'll be an eternal hugging that they will be able to monitor. At the same time, we'll be able to work together with them. I'd just like to touch again that through the initiative of, so this enterprise architecture, in my limited knowledge of IT, is about this, having common platforms, trying to bind silos together, having some sort of network and so on. So I'd just like to, I will not like to talk too much, but I just want to say here that there are many challenges, I think, which we should all know about, that when we talk about providing services, we've seen initiatives, especially in Meghalaya and in Northeast in general, that we have very poor, we may have internet, like for example, our banking in rural areas is still very not up to the mark, because banks cannot go there because now everything is driven online, and even though we may have internet connection, but the bandwidth either is not adequate enough, or sometimes because the speed, so therefore like it cannot drive these bank processes. So I think when we talk about digital, the digital services, these are the things I think the backbone is important also to focus on. So I just hope that all of you who are here comfortable so far, and whatever is, is not meeting your expectations, we are in a very remote area, we'll try our best to make you stay comfortable. And once again, before I end, I would just like to thank Kong Lingwa for being so kind as to mention those books which I had written. Unfortunately, one of them is out of print, not because it's sold out, it's because it was a self-publication. But the other one I think is still available online, so if you just Google my name, probably you'll get your hands on it. And if I'm still around, I can autograph it for you. So once again, I thank our Honorable Chief Minister for being so kind as to lead this process forward, and under his leadership, I'm sure that later on when we have another e-governance meet of this kind somewhere in another part of the country, we'll be able to show how much we have come forward like since today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your address.
He has spearheaded the rollout of the first Meghalaya Telecom Infrastructure Policy 2018, which has not only provided a uniform approval process for setting up of telecom infrastructure in the state, but also facilitated in further improving the telecom penetration in the state. He is also instrumental in accelerating e-services across all the 11 districts of the state, and is credited with his vision for taking forward the setting up of the technology park at Shillong, the construction of which is going on expeditiously. It is my great privilege and honor to introduce Shri Hamletson Dorling, the Honorable Minister in charge of Urban Affairs and Information Technology and Communications Department, Government of Meghalaya, and I request you, sir, to kindly address the gathering.
Shri Conrad Kisangma, Honorable Chief Minister Meghalaya, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Donor, PMO, Personal Public Grievances, DAE, Government of India, Shri Ajay Prakash Sahani, Secretary to Government of India, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Shri K.V. Ipen, Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, Shri P.S. Thank you, Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya, Kong R.V. Suchang, Additional Chief Secretary, Personal Air Department, Government of Meghalaya, Additional Chief Secretary, Principal Secretaries, official from the Government of India, and all state government and union territories, leaders from different industries represented by NASCOM, members of startup and private organization, friends from the press and the media, ladies and gentlemen. At the very outset, I'd like to express my happiness to be able to present at the National Conference on E-Governance, which is being held in Northeast India for the very first time. The Department of Administrative Reform and Public Grievances, in association with Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, conduct National E-Governance Conference every year, and this is the 22nd. I, once again, on behalf of my government and the people of the state of Meghalaya, would like to welcome you all to this conference. Successful implementation of e-governance practices offer better delivery of services to the citizen, improve interaction with business and industries, citizens' empowerment through access to information, better management, greater convenience, revenue growth, cost reduction, increase public sector efficiency, minimize corruption, and improve the accountability, transparency, and responsiveness of the public sector. Information and communication technology is a powerful tool that can bring the government and its citizens together. There is a sense of excitement as well as anticipation as we usher into a new era of integration of governance with information and communication technology. Perhaps this can be the best possible way to achieve the goal of inclusive and robust development in the country. This conference, I firmly believe, is giving a platform to policymakers, practitioners, and industry leaders to interact, present their views, analyze and recommend various solutions to provide actionable strategies for good governance. And I hope this conference will take concrete steps to bridge the gaps of digital dividend, which is a major issue as large part of the country and its population is still outside digital dividend. Sir, I would like to take this opportunity to spell out the initiative taken by the IT Department, Government of Meghalaya. Under the central funding, we have set up the core infrastructure, including the Meghalaya State Data Center, Meghalaya Statewide Area Network, and the Rainbow Command Service Center. And on the core infrastructure, several citizenship-centric applications were rolled out, thereby benefiting citizens and bringing the delivery system people-friendly. Under e-district, 13 high volumes e-service have benefited more than 2 lakh citizens of Meghalaya. We're having a population of 30 lakhs. More e-service are in the pipeline. The village level entrepreneurs of the common service centers have played a major role in spreading digital literacy across the state. The state government has also been sponsoring IT courses for the youth through reputed training partners like Aptech, NIIT, and Symantec. Till date, more than 9,700 students have been trained, and about 6,000 untrained have been employed or are self-employed as freelancer. However, we have observed that many of our students are reluctant to move outside the state. Even those who are working outside the states wish to come back. And I am delighted to witness the wonderful participation of the leaders from industries and NASCOM. I invite you to partner with us in the Technology Pact initiative. I am grateful to Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Jitendra Singh, for recently announced to launch 200 project worth of rupees 3,000 crore in Northeast in the first release for the new central government. Sir, infrastructure is the backbone for any IT intervention and project. Meghalaya is one of the early birds in establishing the state data center and the statewide area network under the centrally sponsored plan in the last few decades. Many critical applications and departments are now dependent on this infrastructure. These include CCTNS application and centralized JS applications, to name a few. This call for sustainability of the state data center and the statewide area network, I will urge upon you, sir, to kindly provide fund under the NEC scheme for the sustainability of this core infrastructure project. Sir, I would like to request you, the Honorable Minister, to kindly and to continue providing support for the upcoming Technology Park at Shillong and help to realize our dream of making Shillong IT hub and Silicon Valley of the Northeast. This National Conference on E-Governance is going to discuss numbers of important papers on e-governance. This will benefit all of us and enable us to reap the benefit of IT in e-governance. I am sure this August conference will be a great success for each one of us. I extend my best wishes to all the delegates participating in this two-day conference and hope fruitful result will come out, which in turn ultimately help to make the e-governance to greater height. I sincerely hope and do believe that this conference can be a journey forward for the country in entering a cohesive participation and interaction between the government and the citizens in fostering productive mindset and ideas which can march India into a dynamic, strong, and influential country in the world. Thank you. Metala, Kulbishibun, God bless you.
Thank you, Sir Hamlet Darling. Your proactive ministerial role and empathy for the citizenry of our state made possible the departments you lead and encouraging government intervention to have a transformational impact for transitioning our people on the digital bandwagon the country is taking us on. Thank you, sir.
Credited for having been instrumental in ushering reforms and the vision to improve governance in the central and state governments, he has relentlessly pursued the agenda for according topmost priority to e-governance. Under his dynamic leadership, the government has taken many initiatives for the welfare of pensioners in the last 5 years, and the Department of Pensions has become more focused with various out-of-box initiatives to provide ease of living to the pensioners, such as through digital life certificates, Anubhav and Bhavishya. As the Union Minister in charge of donor, he was instrumental in the introduction of an additional incentive called Venture Funds, which would provide the aspiring entrepreneurs from the Northeast relief from financial liabilities. It is also worthy to mention that the NITI Forum for Northeast has been constituted under his able co-manship as Union Minister of State Independent Charge of Donor, and the first meeting of NITI Forum for Northeast was held on the 10th of April 2018 in Agartala, Tripura. May I also state that the National Conference on E-Governance being held today in the city of Shillong is due to the personal initiative taken by the Honorable Union Minister of State, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with immense pride and an honor to invite the Honorable Union Minister of State, Government of India, Dr. Jitendra Singh, to kindly address this august gathering.
At the outset, I have to thank you for the kind introduction. It went on and so long I thought you were speaking about somebody else. But nevertheless, one always feels good to hear good things about oneself and then tries to believe that that is true. Having said that, Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Conrad Sangma, who also happens to be a very close friend, and I'm proud to say that I have shared 2 generations of relationship with the family, beginning from Mr. P.A. Sangma, the elder Sangma, who was also in a way our guide, a mentor, and when I came into the Ministry of Donor, I was quite unfamiliar what Northeast is all about, and I would very frequently bother him and seek his indulgence, and he was always very kind to be responsive. And I'm also glad that after Conrad has taken over as Chief Minister, incidentally, this is the first official function that we happen to share with him, for a variety of reasons, because then came in the election season and all of us got busy, and then there was model code of conduct, etc. Equally active and dynamic Minister for IT, Mr. Dolling, Secretary ARPG, Mr. Epan, who's been camping here for quite a few days to ensure the success of this conference, Mr. Ajay Prakash, Secretary, Government of India, who's been looking after this flagship mission all over the country. Chief Secretary, Mr. Thank you. I was trying to acquaint myself sitting on the dais because I usually do not have the habit of read out from the prepared text given to me with the kind indulgence of officers. So what I learned sitting on the dais that I should also at the end of the day be given credit to having organized a kind of a batch reunion. So all the 3 batchmates, that's what I observed. And that also equally applies to Additional Secretary Madam Suching and our very affectionate Additional Secretary Mr. Srinivas, who takes up every job with a great passion, and they too happen to be batchmates. So I didn't know I was committing this indulgence. But I can rest assure you that they have not manipulated this. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I also have to congratulate the government of Meghalaya and the Department of ARPG for a huge attendance that we are seeing over here. The first thing I asked after I arrived here was how many states being represented and how many union territories. And I was told that 28 states and all the union territories. So I think they deserve a huge applause. And incidentally, the only state which could not make it today was Nagaland for certain reasons. we have been holding these conferences by rotation in different parts of the country, whether the conference of e-governance, the conference of regional conference in administrative reforms. We have held it in north, as far north as in Jammu. We held it in Jaipur. We held it in Nagpur, different places. But this huge attendance or representative attendance was prompting me to think whether it is all due to ARPG or due to the attraction that Shillong carries with it. For the convenience of Srinivas, I would rather prefer it this way, that it is because of him and ARPG. But that also is in a way a reflection of the fact that due to the constraints of connectivity and other constraints, Shillong possibly could have done much, much better than this, as was being pointed out by the IT minister. You would recall that soon after this government came in 2014, one of the earliest statements made by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi was, can we bring the Government of India out of Vigyan Bhavan? And I think we, in the Ministry of Personnel and ARPG, have very religiously followed that dictum, and we have been moving every now and then to different parts of the country. And that also gives an opportunity to the representatives and friends and officers from different states to arrive at a different venue instead of arriving at Vigyan Bhavan over and over again. And as was being mentioned, it's a special pleasure to have the first ever conference being held in Northeast at Shillong. And when I mooted this idea, just before the election was to happen, and then after the government came in, I was not sure whether I would be in the same ministry. But I thought I would have done my bit of at least having carried this conference to Northeast. But I'm glad I'm still there, because you know the ministers are temporary office bearers, unlike Epan and Srinivasan. So I knew they would be there at least. But I'm glad all of us are here. And Shillong had to be a natural choice because this is actually the original capital of the erstwhile Assam. And it sometimes disturbs to think that it didn't get the kind of developmental focus that it deserved, which we have tried our best to actually give a push in the last 5 years or so. And I was just asking the Chief Minister about the status of the airport, because for many years the airport got stuck up that there's a huge hill. So I was telling them that nowadays we are cutting across Himalaya to construct roads and rail tunnels. So what is this huge mountain which has come in the way of an airport? But I think it was lack of will which is now taken over. And I was now discussing that we could soon get an extension of the air track at least. There was a time when this government came in, at least 2 states in Northeast, including Meghalaya, and the other one being Arunachal Pradesh, had never seen a train. But now we have a double gauge rail track under construction. Though it would take time because for the reasons of topography and for geographical reasons, for seasonal reasons, all such activities actually cannot be carried forward as smoothly and as promptly as maybe in some of the plains and the other states. But nevertheless, we have consistently followed that off. As far as this conference on e-governance is concerned, as you were listening during the brief documentary that was presented at the beginning of this session, the Honorable Prime Minister saying in one of the meetings in which all of us were there, that e-governance could be ease of governance, it could be environmental friendly governance, it could be electronic governance, and it could also be effective governance. And I have no hesitation to say that it is the personal indulgence of Prime Minister Modi and his personal outreach which has encouraged us, which has enabled us, which has provided us with the resources to give this kind of focus to the northeastern region. Soon after he took over, one of the famous observations he made was that India cannot develop as a whole if one of the part is not able to develop at par with the other part. And he compared it with the two arms of Mother India, and saying one arm remains strong, the other remains feeble, will never ensure a wholesome growth. And therefore, right from day one, a special attention was given to Northeast, and as was being mentioned by the IT Minister, the Niti Aayog Forum for Northeast is again the first of its kind for any region in India. Not even in the Planning Commission days that had happened. And as far as e-governance and the digitalization program is concerned, we have over the last few years tried to extend it even to the most peripheral parts of the northeastern region, in spite of all the constraints. We have now an earner program which is coming up, which is almost through now. And as far as the e-governance part of it is concerned, the governance part of it is concerned per se, which is being dealt by Mr. Eapen and his colleagues, I think one of the most visible and evident marker of the success achieved in the 4 years is that Mr. Eapen and more so Mr. Srinivasan are sitting on the podium with a smile. Because ARPG was a department which none of the officers were very happy being posted in. That kind of esteem, if it is there in the department, that means that we are actually doing something worthy of being appreciated, being patted around. And when I came into the Ministry of Personnel 5 years ago, and I asked one of the friends in the bureaucracy, I said, what is it all about? He said, this is a ministry where the visitors come with a long face and the officers sitting there also respond with a long face. Because the visitor is none else than another officer, because it's dealing with the services and they have one or the other grievance or maybe disheartening complaint that the empanelment didn't happen or the posting was not right, etc. And the officer responding also is little uncomfortable being seated there because he's been constantly, if not very visibly, trying for another placement. So I think, again, on a serious note, this goes to the credit of Prime Minister Modi, that the Ministry of Personnel and the Department of Administrative Reforms has been given its due place in the government hierarchy, in the government functioning. Because as all of us know, because this is a corporate now era that we have stepped in any corporate company or a multinational company, the HRD wing is the most influential department of the company or the setup and carries the maximum clout. And I'm glad that ARPG, which is also a nodal ministry or a nodal department in the government of India, which is evolving reforms constantly, contemplating new ideas, and then placing them for the other ministries and other departments, other states to emulate, has actually taken up that role very seriously in the last 5 years or so. Before I come to the immediate achievements of the ARPG and the e-governance which have taken place in the recent times, I would just like to take you back to retreat the kind of commitment with which this government came in as far as the personnel management was concerned. And I would like you to recall that just within 3 months after we came in, one of the first decisions taken by the government was to do away with the certification of documents by the gazetted officers. And we sent out a message across the country that, look here is a government after 70 years, 65 years, which has the capacity to trust the youth of this country. And it can't be otherwise when we are dealing with India, which has more than 70% population comprising of youth. And therefore youth can self-attest themselves. And when we made this announcement, one of the media friends said, what if a youth fudges his documents? I said then the fault would lie with his parents, his educators, his teachers, those who have groomed him. But I'm sure the youth today is awakened enough to realize what is good, what is bad for him. And that was a law which had been persisting for centuries and was a legacy of British Empire. And since we've been in opposition for most of the time, at least the kind of background that we came from, when we entered into class 9 or class 10, I said that once in Parliament also, we would be asked to get our documents certified by a gazetted officer. We didn't have a gazetted officer for kilometers together in the vicinity of where we went to school or where we lived. And we would, as children, start imagining how would a gazetted officer look like. Maybe a secretary would have 2 noses, and a chief secretary would have 3 eyes. So it was quite an injustice being done to independent India. We did away with the interviews. And within 5 years, we have done away with at least 1,500 rules and laws which were found to be obsolete. Most of the governments take credit in recalling the new legislation brought in with it. Here is a government which has the capacity, the confidence in taking pride in saying that we have done away with 1,500 rules. I'm sure someday the analysts and historians will take a note of this. And as far as Department of ARPG, pensions, grievances is concerned, a lot was being shown in the film just presented, and also what was being compared about the e-ticketing of the railways. But I think we went beyond that and also took some of the initiatives which were human friendly. Like, for example, it was this Department of ARPG which took the decision of introducing a digital Praman Patra in the Department of Pensions for the elderly citizens. And as I said, since most of the time we have been, grounded being out of government, so we had the experience of the hardships. And we come across pensioners who could not reach out or could not reach the bank to collect their pension when they were asked to get a certificate from a doctor to prove that they were still around and alive. And that also was quite an inhuman feeling, because as a clinician, I have seen the attendants of a diseased patient in a hurry to collect the death certificate because they know they would not get his insurance claims, etc. But to collect the life certificate itself was a very cruel feeling. And given the kind of technology we have, the department under Mr. Epan introduced that Praman Patra where you can use the biometrics. The CP grams, which has been mentioned by Mr. Epan, I think the point to be noted over there is that when this government came in 2014, you just had about 2 lakh complaints being filed every year. Today, you have over 16 lakh. Now what does that mean? People are not happy with Epan, or people are not happy with the DOPT minister. And that was something which was quipped by one of the media persons. He said, is it that the number of complaints has gone up because the Modi government has taken over? And I tried to clarify saying that the complaints are lodged where you have an expectation of redressal. This has happened because this department worked day and night to ensure a timeline. And at the end of every week, a monitoring was done. Sometimes even random phone calls were being made Sometimes I too indulge in that. And on an average, we had not less than 90 to 95% of such grievances or complaints being cleared by Friday evening. It happens to be the last working day. And even if grievance on certain account got delayed, we set up a discipline for ourselves to intimate the complainant about the reasons of the delay, which could be sometimes because ARPG and the ARPG department can handle a complaint, but it cannot redress. It has to go to another ministry. And when I'm addressing the representatives and friends from different states, I think this aspect also has to be carried forward to the civil society and public at large. Because even after having achieved that kind of a huge target, we still sometimes come across social media with an observation. Look, the minister said so and so, the secretary said so and so at a conference in Shillong, but my complaint remains unaddressed. I had written, my empanelment was denied wrongly, and there is no redressal. So I think you have to go home and tell people in your respective states and union territories that redressal of a grievance or a disposal of that grievance does not necessarily mean that it would fulfill your ambition or your subjective aspiration. And in English language, no two words have the same meaning. So disposal is not same as addressing an aspiration. Now I may think that I'm wiser than Mr. Thankwe, and therefore why not I am the Chief Secretary. Even though he is an author, I am also an author of sorts, but I've slowed down on writing after I came into the ministry, because then you are not taken seriously as a minister. But if I think so and put in a complaint, then look here, in the empanelment process, other batchmates were made secretary, I was not. All that the ARPG and grievance can do is to find out the reasons and the view of the concerned department and then send it back to the complainant. But it can't make you secretary. So that is something we have to go and tell the people. So even after having done so much of it and toiled so much, if you still have that grievance, that the grievance was not redressed, it's because they feel that having lodged a complaint in CP Gram or the grievance cell is enough to make them a secretary in Government of India or give them a promotion. So what I'm trying to say is that each of these programs needs to be supplemented with a huge, huge public awareness program, because after all, the stakeholders are the people at large. We have also, in the Department of Pensions, started a regular practice of holding pension adalats, where on a single day, on the spot, redressal of the grievance is done. But that does not necessarily mean, because I have still, because we have a very open kind of an appointment system, we have very senior officers who attained superannuation maybe 25 years back, coming and saying, no, I didn't get the 7th pay commission benefits, I didn't get. So there may be reasons why they didn't get that category of officers. And then, since they know the department well, they have been insiders, they go on to file a grievance, sometimes even an RTI. The other part which we need to educate the people is that virtually everything in the last 4 or 5 years is now available in public domain on a website. For example, most of the orders, including the ACC orders, even before they reach the concerned official, they are already there on the website, and many a time the officer does not even wait for his copy to be received. He accesses it from the website. So we could at least politely discourage, if not outrightly refuse, a grievance, likewise also an RTI in the case of Information Commission, about an information which is already available in website, because sometimes we develop the thrill of filing a grievance. So we become, I would not say habitual grievance makers, but expert in grievance making. And without checking on whether the response of the grievance is already available on the website, we go about filing one. The dashboards have been introduced. A reference was made about programs like Anubhav, programs like Sankalp. Sankalp is, of course, for those who are achieving or going to attain superannuation, so that because nowadays most of the officials who retire at the age of 60 are at the prime of their experience and prime of their expertise. And therefore, for the next 20 years or so, how do you plan them? So that they can put up their expertise in the best possible way and utilize their energies. Otherwise, they would also become either RTI applicants or grievance makers. So if we involve them and have some kind of, advisory management. So for that, we have started the workshop program. Anubhav is another initiative began in the last 2-3 years. And I'm sure we are now started collecting it, compiling into manuals, which is going to be a huge research material for anybody who chooses to do a research on that, even a thesis work on that. Officers retiring or just 6 months within their retirement telling us about how they felt during their service career 30-35. There's a huge educative input sometimes coming in. Like for example, I very often narrate that incident about a lady officer who wrote in her Anubhav that she thought she was good in tourism and she was always trying that she should be sent out for a deputation or a scholarship to attain some higher qualification or expertise in tourism. So she spent quite a few years in that attempt. Finally, she could manage. She was sent abroad. She came back with a PhD, etc. after 2-3 years. And when she joined back, she was told that she had been transferred to a different department. Now, these are some of the inherent fallacies in the system, which unless pointed out would not come to our notice, because otherwise, like that naked king moving on a rath and everybody saying that clothes are beautiful. So it's very easy to say something which pleases the secretary and the minister. But the lady wrote that, and then by the time, then she kept trying to get back to tourism because she had the passion to actually implement and practice what she had learned. By the time she could actually manage getting back to that department, her superannuation was just about 5 months ago, later. So these kind of experiences, the dashboards are now there. As far as, in fact, even the portals, and in the Ministry of Personnel itself, we now have apps. Just as we have CPGram, we have the app for the RTI also, and we have a portal. You don't have to wait from 10 to 5. I said the other day, even at the middle of night, you feel like filing an RTI, you can do that from your app. So that kind of citizen-friendly governance, as the Prime Minister was saying, making it effective and making it easy and making it operable through the new technology has been sought to be accomplished. The PM Excellence Awards is the other area which is being directly dealt by Mr. Epan's department. Earlier on, it was mostly based on the individual performance or the individual profiles. Now it's been made wide-based. The flagship programs, and it's absolutely done very electronically in a highly computerized fashion. And the response is so encouraging that you have most of the districts now. You have 700 odd districts, most of the districts across the country now participating in that competitive program. And when the award is decided on the basis of the best performing district, you have even some of the young collectors coming forward. And since that trend has begun, more and more young collectors are feeling encouraged, to pick up one of the flagship programs. And since we happen to be in Meghalaya and standing in Shillong, I think Jal Shakti corner is one of the programs which could be taken up for that kind of a competition by this government, because Jal Shakti is going to be one of the flagship programs and it could be a part of the competition for the Excellence Awards. And I have to compliment the Honorable Chief Minister that the state is one of the first to have taken this up, the newly introduced campaign, in a big way. As far as the donor is concerned, of course, I think one of the important reasons which motivated us to have this conference over here and motivated me personally also, that we keep having events related to donor ministry, we keep having events related to NEC. But it's more important to have the mainstream ministries coming here, because donor is taken as one of the ministries which belongs to Northeast. And I'm sure this cue will be picked up by the other ministries as well. Over the last 5 years, as I said in the beginning, when we came into donor, I said everybody goes around advising us, why not bring Northeast closer to rest of India? I said nobody says, why not bring rest of India closer to Northeast? Because there's so much to learn from Northeast for the rest of India. And that has now motivated us to bring up hostels for Northeast students. Under the guidance of Mr. Moiba, NEC Secretary, we have already made functional a hostel in the campus of the Bangalore University. Another hostel coming up in JNU. Very few of us realized, even sitting in Delhi, that at least 8 to 10% of the students in the Jawaharlal Nehru University belong to Northeast. And they are amongst the meritorious students and among the better scholars and the faculty. We are in the process of also trying to bring up a hostel at Rohini for the Delhi University. And the venture fund which was being mentioned has generated such a huge response, because Northeast has been a land of unexplored potentials. And the first lot of this venture fund distribution was done by the Prime Minister when he was on a visit to Mizoram. And I'm sure the manner in which it's picked up, because there's, when every other place gets saturated, Northeast still would have something to offer. And many of the areas, both in entrepreneurship and industry, remain unexplored for a variety of reasons, for reasons of connectivity, for reasons of inadequate storage facility. Like, for example, you could have a fruit industry anywhere, which we are constrained, we could not, because the resources is not allowing us. And finally, we got Israeli collaboration for setting up a food park, a citrus food park in Mizoram. But as we actually promote entrepreneurship and offer these venture funds to the youngsters, in the last 2-3 years, we have noticed that we have groups of startups coming from different states, from Gujarat, from Karnataka, which makes me believe and makes me confident to say the day is not far when Northeast will become a favorite destination for youth from all over India. And therefore, without taking long, because we have been passionately involved with this work, and we can go on and on the whole day, I'm sure the theme of the conference, the e-governance Parsi, which we have been actually propagating and discussing in different parts of India, will get better registered among the delegates when they sit in the cool, pleasant climes of Shillong. And as the Chief Secretary was saying, he is ready to offer all kind of hospitality. While thanking him for his indulgence, I would only advise the friends that the hospitality should not take over the academic part of it, so that we should not forget what we have come for. But I think we can carry back all the pleasant things that we share in these pleasant climes. And e-governance, I would also request Srinivasan that we could set a new theme on the subject, which could be known as Shillong Statement or a Shillong Declaration on e-governance, so that when we move forward, as we are doing so in the rest of the India, each moment would keep us reminding that there was something which was picked up exclusively when we sought in this hall at Shillong. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening address and for challenging the gathering to work towards better governance and delivery through e-governance. Thank you once again.
A heaven-orchestrated symphony has the earth resonating that vibration, where the crescendo would give us this destiny child, and he's none other than Sir Conrad Konkal Sangma, our Honorable Chief Minister of the Government of Meghalaya, donning the mantle of an illustrious father. An independent study conducted on world leaders and professionals for 30 years found that only 20% of leaders all over this habitat we call Earth experience convergence. Here is where an individual, his skill, creativity, life experiences converge in a time frame where when they step in to lead and man that sphere of influence, they impact the environment. He is an ideal leader who has discarded a parochial mindset to embrace diversity in the state, yet he is mindful of the social norms of respect and dignity. His personal drive, proactive involvement, and initiative is instrumental in bringing emissaries of administrative, industry, and technological advances to converge in this common platform. It is my honor and privilege to now invite our Honorable Chief Minister, respected Sir Conrad Sangma, who is also the chief guest of this memorable event, to give the inaugural address. Sir.
Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, MOS of Prime Minister's Office, Donor Ministry, etc. in Government of India, Shri Hamletson Dolling, Minister in charge IT, Urban Affairs, Municipal, Government of Meghalaya, Shri K.V. Epen, who is the Secretary of ARNPG, Shri Ajay Prakash Soni, who is the Secretary of MEITY, our Chief Secretary, Shri P.S. Thank you, our Additional Chief Secretary, Srimati Rebecca Suchiang, Shri V. Srinivas, the Additional Secretary, ARNPG, all the officials who are present here today, who have come from Delhi as well as other parts of the country, all the delegates from the different states who are present here to be part of this conference, my friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank and congratulate Dr. Jitendra Singh, who is a very close family friend, I should say, and has been a mentor to me, has guided me in many, many situations. And even today, when there are important decisions to make, different challenges that we face, Dr. Jitendra Singh has always been there to ensure that not just Meghalaya State, but the Northeast gets the kind of importance that it is getting right now. And I think today's program being held here is another example of the kind of intention that he has and the kind of action that he does to ensure that Northeast is not sometimes left behind. So I thank you, sir, for really taking the initiative. And we all know that this program today is taking place here in Shillong because of your intervention. And at the same time, I would like to congratulate the entire team that has put in so much of effort, especially Kong Rebecca Suchiang and Mr. V. Srinivas, who have jointly worked together to ensure that this program has been organized in a proper manner. And I'm sure that these next 2 days will really bring out a lot in terms of productivity and sharing, more importantly, of different ideas and different programs that have been taken up by different states in different parts of the country. Friends, there is a lot to discuss, but I know that there's a shortage of time, and I do not want to take too much of my time or your time to discuss all the details. But e-governance and bringing in technology into governance has been something that has been very close to my heart. I'm very, very passionate when it comes to ensuring that technology is used in the right way, and technology is used in the way that technology is applicable to ensure that another exercise or an activity can be done in a much more efficient manner, having better results at the end of the day, reaching out to more people at the end of the day. It's not necessary that we have to have the best technology. It's not always. But we have to have the technology that helps us achieve the goals in a much more better manner. And I think that is what drives me also when we talk of e-governance. We have a lot of areas, obviously. E-governance is just one of the words that we talk about in terms of the kind of programs that are taking place in the different states. But I think at the end of the day, it's a complete package. And if you look at it, issues like connectivity is a problem for us. Now, I know that we'll have so many G2C programs that are happening in different parts of the country. But then when it comes to states like Meghalaya and other maybe hill states also, a huge difficulty or a challenge comes in when the connectivity is an issue. Therefore, I think it is very important, and I'm very happy that Dr. Jitendra Singh is here. Sir, I think the connectivity issue is something that we really need to look at. And no matter how many platforms and how many programs and how many softwares we come out with, if the connectivity is not there, I think it will defeat half the purpose of all the exercise that we do. So therefore, projects like the BharatNet, I must mention that a lot of challenges are being faced by BharatNet throughout the nation, and especially in the Northeast. I think in Meghalaya, it's very, very slow. So there are a lot of challenges in that. Most of the areas in Meghalaya, especially, are not connected with mobile towers. And yes, I must thank the Government of India for having come out with a program to connect different parts of the Northeast, especially Meghalaya. I think almost close to 2,173 towers have been sanctioned, but the progress of that also needs to be monitored. Another very big issue that we face when it comes to connectivity is Northeast is bordering all international borders. And sir, I think you might know or you might not know, but there is a particular provision or a policy that does not allow the mobile operators to have a tower anywhere into 1 to 2 kilometers of the international border. Because if the signal of the operator goes into Bangladesh, the operator has to pay 5 or 10 lakh rupees every time this issue is brought out. So this discourages the operators to actually have towers at the border area. Now that is a big hindrance for us, and in fact it's a national security issue, because our people end up using the Bangladesh Grameen network. BSF officers sometimes to talk to their family and friends, they use the Bangladesh network, or they use the Myanmar network, and you never know, in Arunachal they might be using the Chinese network. So I think it's a matter of great concern, and so therefore I think connectivity is a core issue, and I must take this opportunity to talk to all of you. You know, I keep telling people that conferences like this are massive. It's not about the number of people that are here. Obviously, that's a big thing. It's the years of experience that this room has right now. And if you calculate all the years of experience that all of you have, we have, I think, maybe close to 10,000 years of work experience in this room alone. And I think that's a big thing. So we must take advantage of that. And I think this room itself, the kind of network that you can have at a national level is even bigger. So I think these kind of issues need to be addressed, and really are core to not just basic connectivity or national security, but yes, when it comes to e-governance, these things are very important. For us as a government, I know there are a lot of G2C programs. I don't have to talk about that. You know much better than me. There are a lot of G2G programs that we are looking at, and I would speak a bit about that, to take some time, because I feel it's important for me to mention it. And I think ultimately, for government, and at least for the cabinet and my team that we have, another big area of e-governance is really the data that we collect. Today, it is very difficult for government sometimes to take solid decisions without having the right data. But if we have the right data and the prediction is made out of the data that is there, the trends that come out of it will really help us to make quality decisions which will ensure that with the same amount we can have better output and better services for the people. So I think this area of decision making in terms of the data collection and the predictiveness that it can give us, I think is a very, very important aspect of governance. And I think we as a state government, we are really looking forward in that line. I just want to give an example to you. Our Additional Chief Secretary mentioned about data-driven governance. It's a very common term. I know it's not a big thing. But point being that when we come out and actually implement it, the kind of impact it can have at the grassroots is immense. Last 6 months back, we took up one district in southwest Garo Hills. We have 11 districts out here. We have a very big problem when it comes to maternal mortality rate. That district had a maternal mortality rate of the maternal mortality rate is also high because of the institutional deliveries are less. So that has a direct correlation with the MMR. So therefore, we realized that we need to increase the institutional deliveries. So in that particular district, it was at 40%. What we did was we took that as a pilot project. We mapped all the pregnant mothers in that district, every village. No extra additional mobile was given, no additional computer. The same handheld device that was owned by the doctors or by the ASHA worker or by the Anganwadi worker or any official who had a mobile phone, we simply used that. So with zero investment, we started this project. And we were able to map and actually predict, obviously it's very simple science, to predict which week, which mother was expecting to deliver. And that helped us to prepare a chart on how we could send the ambulances and motivate the ambulance driver to actually go and pick up the mothers so that they can bring them to the closest institution. And my friends, I'm very happy to inform you that within 6 months, we saw the institutional deliveries jump up 100%. We went from 40% to 80% in that district. And this is a success story which we are now going to implement and replicate in other parts of the state. And I am sure that within this financial year itself, Meghalaya, which has a very bad record of institutional deliveries, I'm sure we will be able to touch, if not 100%, I'm sure we will be way above the national average, and our target will be to touch 100%. And it's a simple way to show that without any additional funds, no new technology, just the same system, the same people, just a bit of motivation and a bit of technology involvement can make a huge difference in the service that we provide to the people. So I think these are the kind of things that we are looking at. Meghalaya has done this, and I'm sure it's very easy for other states also to do it. It's really the question of the willpower to do and make a difference, and really motivation at the grassroots level. You have to motivate the ambulance driver, you have to motivate the ASHA worker. We sometimes miss it out. We think that it is the doctor that matters. The doctor is very important, but the ambulance driver is equally important. So I think it's a question of all these kind of motivational programs that we need to do. I was very happy to see that unified platform proposal that was put in by Mr. Soni, I think. He had mentioned about the unified platform. And I can just share an example. It's not really a unified platform completely in the way he's mentioning, but another example of what we have done, and I think it's a great initiative, which is what we call iTeams. It's a software and a platform where we connect the farmer to the buyer. In fact, I had met Honorable Prime Minister about 2 months back, and I told him about this program. So we told him it's a Uber for agriculture, for farmers. So it is a platform where not only do we connect farmer to buyer, so that they can make a call and they can ask in this call center, 1917 is the number we have. So the farmer can call and they will actually get information on who are the buyers maybe who would want their products. And not only do we do that, after they find the buyer, there is a next second service which we provide, which is the transportation of the products. So suppose a farmer says that I don't have a vehicle to transport. We have a set of entrepreneurs who own the trucks and the pickups and the small vehicles, who then are connected to this integrated unified platform where they become transporters without government having to invest a single rupee. We have nothing to do with this. We are only connecting the dots. And then the transporter will then, at a specific price, which is again very transparent, will link up with that farmer, take the product from there and deliver it to the thing. And not only that, the third service we provide through this platform called 1917 iTeams is that ultimately we also give service in terms of the information to the farmer, some kind of organic pesticides that are required, or different kind of help that they might need. So these kind of services where they need guidance and information on a certain product, on where they could buy it, how they could sell it, how they could protect it, diseases that are there in the thing. So those kind of services also are provided through this platform. So we want to expand this across. We would like this to be across the country, in fact. And if you can imagine that the farmer is connected directly to the buyer, the kind of the benefit that the farmer will get, it will double the income, as the Honorable Prime Minister wants. It will double the income of the farmer in no time. So I think these kind of innovative programs are being done by the state government as of now. We have also a government that is really motivated, and we really want to push entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is something that is really top of our agenda right now. We have a program where we give award to an entrepreneur every month. We call it Entrepreneur of the Month Award. We call it Meg-Era. So it's an Entrepreneur Recognition Award. And what we do is we pick up these entrepreneurs, and these will be people who have got 50,000 turnover, 1 lakh turnover. These are people who make chips out of bananas that is there in the field. That's how they've been doing, and nobody seemed to have bothered about them, and nobody recognized them. So we decided that we're going to recognize such farmers and entrepreneurs who are doing these simple, innovative programs. And what we did was, after we recognized them, we have tried to bring them on a platform. So we created an online platform called Meghamart, M-E-G-H-A-M-A-R-T, megamart.com, where we have put all these entrepreneurs, and it's an open registration where you as an entrepreneur can register and put your product on that thing. And why we did this is because we're also coming out with a procurement policy where we want to make it mandatory for all government offices, because you are buying coffee, so might as well buy a coffee from my local promoter also. You are buying biscuits, so might as well buy biscuits from my producer who's making from pineapple or other products that they have. So this Mega Mart then allows all these producers to come on board and make this program and sell their products. And more importantly, as I said, the procurement policy will ensure that they are able to, that they are selling the products, that they'll be able to sell their products to local buyers. So these kind of programs are being brought out. And of course, many other programs are there. I don't want to go more into details. As Honorable Minister mentioned, we have come out with a water policy, and this water policy also will have an integrated management system. We are going to actually be, in the policy, we have created a system where we will be measuring the water that is coming in, measuring the water that is going out, measuring the water that will be reused ultimately. All this will be in a database. We're measuring how much each household will be consuming, measuring each village will be consuming, and this will allow us to have a better prediction of how much water will be required in the future generations and the future years to come. So therefore, these kind of aspects are being integrated even in the water policy. So therefore, many such programs are there, and I don't want to get into all of them. Our additional Chief Secretary and our Chief Secretary mentioned about the enterprise architecture. It's something that we're very proud of, I should say. I'm very happy that the Government of India has selected Meghalaya as the pilot project, and I can assure you that this is something that I will personally be looking into, and I have been looking into it. It's a project that's very close to my heart, And it's something that I also obviously totally believe in. And therefore, we're going to push this forward also. Having said that, I would like to just add one point that I feel is very important before I come to the last aspect, is that we heard so many people talk about so many different issues when it came to the G2C, G2G, talked about smart cities, I am very keen, and we've been discussing a lot in our government, we're talking about smart villages. Now we need to also ensure that government starts looking at villages. It is important that we make our cities smart, but I think basic technology and implementation of basic programs can ensure that our villages also get smart. And I think it's important that we look at that aspect, and I think the impact will be much more and the investment will be much lesser. Because cities are here, and you can put all the money into it and you can get here. But the villages are here. So the amount that you'll put in, the impact will be, the marginal impact of the amount that you put in, the returns that you'll get will be much higher. So I encourage you that in this conference, I think we must think of innovative ways to make our villages smart also. So yes, let's make our cities smart, but let's make our villages even smarter. And by this, I mean aspects of education, we can have smart classrooms that can be connected throughout, with different schools and different colleges. Aspect of smart health issues, where simple health issues can be resolved by having technology come into the system. We can have entrepreneurship being pushed simply by having simple basic technology being implemented in the villages. So I think it's very critical and important to have these aspects also. And at the end, I know I've spoken a lot and I don't want to take much time. I think all of you are very, very qualified and know what exactly to do out here. But at the end of the day, I think whatever we do, whatever technology you bring in, if there is a problem with the mindset, we can never move forward. And I think that is one of the biggest challenge we face. It is sometimes very difficult to even convince our officials that let's start using these programs. We had a huge challenge, and we still are facing a challenge when it comes to e-office. So we have forced e-office into my CM secretariat, even though there was a lot of difficulty. People are so used to, you see, the problem with, as you know, with our system is that and in fact it's true for everybody, once you get used to something, it's very difficult to change that. So I think the mindset must change. And it is so important that you must have sensitization programs, awareness programs being conducted so that the mindset of the officials and the people involved in the system, they must change. I'm not saying it's negative. It's not negative at all, because that's how our country has been running. So obviously there's something right that is happening. But question is how to make it better. And therefore I think we must have an open mind. And I'm sure in this room all of you have. But I think there is a system beyond this room which really needs to be worked on. And we need to encourage our colleagues and our friends to ensure that they have a bigger and open mindset. E-office is something, even in 2008, when I was finance minister in the state of Meghalaya, I was there for 1 year under late Dr. Don Cooper Roy's leadership. I was a finance minister here, and I wanted e-office even then in 2008. But now, of course, we have a different opportunity here, and I'm happy that, well, I don't know if e-office was there in 2008 or not, but I used to say that can't we get rid of the files, paper files? Can't we get into online? And so even in 2008, I wanted an online system, and obviously now we have an opportunity where the e-office is there. And I'm happy to inform you that we are in a very, very fast mode to implement it throughout the different departments. It's not easy, as I said. The technology is simple, but getting the entire system to shift to it is the real challenge. So therefore, we're working on that, and I encourage you to do that. So friends, I thank you once again for being here for this program. I thank all the officials who have really worked tirelessly for making this program a success in one way. And I'm happy to see that there's so much of participation from all different parts. I think what Sir has just mentioned, that if there could be some decisive ideas that could come out and it could be a Shillong declaration that could be there, I think it would really be something that is historic in one way and really something that we can look forward to and work towards. I'm happy that this program has been held in Northeast for the first time. Northeast in general has not picked up the e-governance aspect as much as other parts of the state. I have, as I said, been a person who is very much into e-governance. I have visited Gujarat and I've seen the systems in Gujarat. This was when I was leader of opposition earlier, then as member of parliament, and then sometimes when I didn't win elections, I went on my own, going around and seeing systems. In fact, about 3 years back when I was neither an MLA, neither an MP, I had an opportunity to go and see the system in Hyderabad. And I just went as a normal citizen and I saw the e-Seva, me-Seva Kendras. And I just saw how systematic they were. I saw how Hyderabad, in fact, was using space technology, satellite technology, to actually assess the damages before the flood and after the flood. And so many of our departments and states still depend on human beings going to the field and actually seeing with their own eyes and giving the report. And we don't need to do that anymore. And in fact, those reports sometimes may be manipulated also. I'm not saying people manipulate it, but it could be. But there is satellite today that can easily tell us the pre and the post. So therefore, so many areas that we can work on. And I'm sure that in this conference, you will be discussing all those aspects. And once again, I wish this conference very great success, and I know that it will be fruitful. And with these few words, I declare this conference as open. And once again, thank all of you for participating. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless our wonderful country, India. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, respected sir. Your tech-savvy inclination and an empathetic heart for the less privileged citizens at the grassroots level is a forceful combination and an enduring USP that make possible government intervention in areas and places of this state that needs connectivity. That you also optimize the move from providing service delivery to service enabler through entrepreneur-focused schemes and policies, thus help the state to be on the right track under your captaincy. It is indeed a joy, and we are so thankful to you for that address. Thank you very much, sir.
May I request Shri V. Srinivas, an IAS officer of the batch of 1989, and the present Additional Secretary to the Government of India, DARPG, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Respected Shri Conrad Sangma-ji, Honorable Chief Minister of Meghalaya, respected Dr. Jiten Singh-ji, Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge of the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's Office, Personnel, Public Grievances, Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Space of the Government of India, respected Shri Hamletson Dolong-ji, Honorable Minister of IT and Communications and Urban Affairs, Government of Meghalaya, Chief Secretary Meghalaya, Secretary Meiti, Secretary DRPG, Additional Chief Secretary Personnel and AR Government of Meghalaya, distinguished senior officials, delegates, captains of industry, representatives of media, ladies and gentlemen. I rise to propose the formal vote of thanks at the inaugural ceremony of the 22nd edition of the National Conference on E-Governance. For an officer from Rajasthan cadre who did many postings in the desert districts of the state, I have never seen such forest cover or so much natural beauty as I saw in Meghalaya, and felt truly blessed for this opportunity to visit Shillong twice in the period of 1 week. And I'm grateful to the government of Meghalaya for organizing this conference. On behalf of the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, I express our profound gratitude to the Honorable Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Shri Conrad Sangma-ji, for presiding over the inaugural function, inaugurating the exhibition, and giving his valuable insights on the theme of the conference. We also heard his passion for the use of technology, like adopting e-office in CM office. And sir, let me brief you that the Department of Telecom is making a presentation on digital infrastructure tomorrow. I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Jiten Singh-ji, for directing us to convene the National E-Governance Conference at Shillong and making time from his busy schedule for a 3-day visit to Shillong. On your direction, sir, the team of senior officials of DARPG worked tirelessly with the senior officials of the Government of Meghalaya to make this magnificent event possible. The first ever National E-Governance Conference in Northeast India. Further, the National Conference at Shillong is in pursuance of DRPG's 100 Days initiative in the new government, and its remarkable success story would inspire us to engage more constructively with the state governments on the key issues of digital cooperation. Governance in India is characterized by virtual private networks and digital signature certificates, which represents a significant transformation over the last decade. And as advised by the Honorable Minister and the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, we would be formulating a Shillong Declaration to define the roadmap forward for e-governance in India for adoption in the valedictory session. And we would take forward the initiatives that the Honorable Chief Minister has outlined in his speech of smart entrepreneurship, smart health, smart classrooms, smart villages into the declaration. I also wish to thank the Honorable Minister of IT, Government of Meghalaya, Secretary Maiti, Secretary DRPG, and the Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya for their addresses that have set the tone for the 2 days conference, and also for the support and guidance throughout the process for organizing this 22nd edition of the National Conference of E-Governance. Under their leadership, the DRPG has been able to handle responsibilities as a convener, providing space for debating values and norms, standard setting, multi-stakeholder initiatives on specific issues of e-governance, like the National E-Services Delivery Assessment, the e-office, One Nation, One Platform, India Enterprise Architecture, digital infrastructure, and end-to-end citizen services, all of which collectively improve the lives of citizens. Further, this conference will go a long way to developing the capacity of state governments, providing a technology facilitation mechanism, enable ranking, mapping, and measuring e-governance services, and fulfill the vision of major secretariat reforms in central and state secretariats. Special thanks are due to Srimati R.V. Suchiang, Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya, and her entire team for their tireless efforts in organizing the conference. Our numerous interactions over the past 30 days have been cordial and constructive and mutually enabling. We benefited from the numerous ideas that the Government of Meghalaya brought to the table. For example, the proposal of convening a roundtable conference of NASSCOM with focus on IT industry in the Northeast on the sidelines of this conference emanated from the Government of Meghalaya. The proposal for visits to the Don Bosco Museum, the cultural evening, and the visit to Cherrapunji on August 10th also emanated from the willingness of the Government of Meghalaya to make this event a huge success. I'm sure the delegates would benefit immensely from the cultural integration and exposure to Meghalaya's rich cultural heritage. I thank all the distinguished panelists who have consented to present papers on the complex technical subjects and lead conference discussions. I thank the awardees and delegates from all over India whose presence adds value to this conference. I would also like to thank members of the screening committee and the jury committee who have come here and who have assisted us with the task of selecting the finalists and winners from amongst 600 nominations. Several states have come forward to present their success stories in the exhibition, and I would urge all participants to visit the exhibition and the Wall of Fame to explore the possibility of replication. I thank our knowledge partner, NASSCOM, and other panelists who have helped us source and curate the conference papers and speakers. I would also like to acknowledge and appreciate my colleagues in the DRPG for their sustained work, abiding commitment, and seriousness of purpose. I also wish to thank the electronic and print media for covering this conference. Your support means a lot to us. We are thankful to the state governments, central ministries, NASSCOM, industry captains who have traveled long distances to be a part of the event. We are greatly enthused by the participation from all states and union territories in this conference. May I request all of you to put your hands together for the hundreds of officials who made the 22nd NCEG possible. Thank you very much. I have a secretariat announcement. The next session would start at 3 p.m. and the session would be for 1 hour 15 minutes. The breakout session would also commence at 3 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the inaugural function. May I request all our distinguished guests and invitees to kindly rise as the Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Conrad K. Sangma, and the Honorable Union Minister of State, Government of India, Shri Jitendra Singh, leave the auditorium. Please kindly remain standing as the Honorable Chief Minister and the Honorable Minister of State would like to take a photograph with all of us here in the auditorium. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can we once again have a huge round of applause for the Honorable Chief Guest of this afternoon's program, the Honorable Chief Minister, and for Dr. Jitendra Singh, the Honorable Union Minister of State, in charge of donor and other departments.